Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Jared Hess, taking on all the roles of game master, solo player, author, and narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One role can decide the fate of many things. Welcome to episode 3 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Jared Hess, your friendly neighborhood game master, solo player, author, and narrator. In our previous episode, Eilwen and her twin brother Aron met with Drystan, a member of the Frostbridge community. They managed to convince the large man to aid them in their search for Mabon, the missing chieftain of Frostbridge, and Cadfael, their missing father. Drystan agrees and brings his sleds and dogs so that they can travel more quickly over the snow. During their travels, Eilwen hides her mother's wooden box containing the crown and the iron discs in a cleft. After traveling for some time, they locate the hunting grounds where Mabon and Cadfael should have been. There they see signs of a struggle and many boot prints that lead southward to the next settlement. They begin to make their way south in pursuit. After surviving an avalanche and spending the night huddled together with the dogs, they arrive at the Green Grip, a vast swath of greenery thick with tall pines in a huge valley. The Grip is rumored to be haunted, while Aron and Drystan set up camp. Eilwen descends into the Grip to go hunting, attempting to recover their meager supplies. Instead of finding hare or doe or fox, she sees a tall, slender figure whose features she could not make out under the shadowy boughs of the thick pine trees. It speaks not and only watches her. She tries to return to her brother and Drystan, but discovers that the game trail she had just been following has inexplicably vanished, completely hidden from view, fresh needles and snow obliterating all traces of her previous route. With nowhere else to go, she decides that following after the strange figure, who had retreated deeper into the trees, is the only way she'll be able to get clear of this strange forest. As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets: Archer, initial box; Cutthroat, initial box; Shadow Walk, initial box. Current statuses: Supply, 4 out of 5; Spirit, 5 out of 5; Health, 5 out of 5; Momentum, 4 out of 10. Current debilities: none. And now on to episode 3 of Queen of Shadows. Eilwen caught snatches of the slender figure moving through the trees. It moved quickly, she grudgingly admitted. She herself was fleet of foot, slender and athletic, and could move with a quiet grace, but this person was outrunning her. She ran for several long moments until her breathing became ragged. "Wait, please," she yelled in a gasp. After a long, sprinting jog, leaping over log, brook, and boulder. "Please, I only want to talk. I need your help. I'm lost, and..." She tripped and sprawled in wet pine needles and snow. Pine gum and needles clung to her palms, clothes, and hair. She brushed them off as best she could in some snow and used a nearby boulder to pull herself upright. The figure was gone. Okay, from before, the figure she saw, since it's now gone and likely won't return, I will reveal what I rolled up about this I had rolled 146 on the action and theme oracle, which gave me anomaly and withered. Is it a person? 50-50 chance? No, but it's in the shape of one. Does she catch up to the figure? 50-50 chance? No. Where does it lead her? To some ruins? 50-50 chance? Yes. Why? And here I use the RPG solo tools. Create anger. She couldn't see any sign of it. Had it been her imagination all along? No. She shook her head. She knew what she had seen. Darkness crept across the land, and she thought of her companions. Aron would probably decide to do something stupid, like try to find her in the darkness. But could they even find her? Maybe with Drystan and the dogs. But she knew that some foul sorcery had kept her from returning to them. Did that figure do something? Or was there something unnatural about this place? She started to believe the rumors of this forest, that there was some ancient magic at work in these parts. She was certain that the snow and needles had shifted to obscure her original route down here. That certainly was not natural. Looking about, she saw several more boulders, an unusual amount, in a huge clearing. Massive pine trees towered over them, and snow lit upon her cheeks as she looked up into the sky. Maybe the clouds would part but no help from the stars. Nothing in this leaden gray night in the green grip. The boulders were strange. She ran a hand across the side of one, feeling its rough stone. Not actually boulders, she decided. They were two blockish stone blocks, carved by some ancient hand then. They looked to have been scattered by some giant kick that made them sprawl pell-mell here and there. She hopped atop one and then clambered atop another block 2 levels above, and she looked about. She stood among the ruins of some kind of pentagon-shaped building, and near one end, 2 angular pillars, obelisks, made of some dusky metal. Does she see runes on the pillar? I think that's likely, and with a 6, I get a yes. Are they the same angular kind of runes she has learned? Also, I think it's likely, and I get a yes and. That makes me think some vile thing was done here. What might that be? Using the RPG solo tools, I get neglect, joy. What is this? She breathed as she hopped down and approached the metal pillars. She tentatively reached out a finger towards one of them. She felt her blood stir inside her when her skin made contact, and she snatched her hand back. What was that? She asked the desolate ruins. Then, tentatively, she touched it again. Cold, hard iron, but old iron, ancient in a way she couldn't understand or fathom. Something she could only feel. Old, she whispered, but not rusted. Black iron, maybe? Black iron, iron rumored to be forged of fallen stars. She brushed away pine needles, lichen, and snow from one face of the pillar. She saw angular runes upon a nearly scratched-free surface, runes that she recognized. Her heart began to thump as she took a step back, nearly stumbling over a fallen stone pillar. Runes she could read. It wasn't easy, but her mother had taught her, and had taught her well. She traced them with her finger, and made the sounds for each one, translating them slowly, painstakingly, but clearly. Bones small, bones of white, bones of tenderness, bones of innocence and light. Bring them, bind them, grind them right. Bring cries of fright, the shivering sight. Bring power over death and night. Bring bones white, bones small, bones light. As she read, an immense sorrow pressed in upon her, threatening to crush her in a leaden weight, and heavy tears, warm with sorrow, yet filled with ice, spilled on her cheeks as a horrible possibility began to be revealed. "Mother Arwed," she called out in a breathless whisper to her mother's departed spirit, "what in the 13 halls is this place? And did you know about it? Did you have some part in it?" I think this and its possible association with her mother calls for the endure stress move. I'll say she suffers 2 spirit, a dangerous attack. So the move endure stress, when you face mental shock or despair, suffer minus spirit equal to your foe's rank, or as appropriate to the situation, if your spirit is 0, suffer minus momentum equal to any remaining spirit. Then roll plus heart or plus spirit, whichever is higher. On a strong hit, choose 1, shake it off. If your spirit is greater than 0, suffer minus 1 momentum in exchange for plus 1 spirit. Or embrace the darkness, take plus 1 momentum. On a weak hit, you press on. On a miss, also suffer minus 1 momentum. If you are at 0 spirit, you must mark shaken or corrupted, if currently unmarked. Or roll on the following table. Roll result 1 through 10, you are overwhelmed, face desolation. 11 through 25, you give up, forsake your vow, if possible, one relevant to your current crisis. 26 through 50, you give in to a fear or compulsion and act against your better instincts. 51 through 100, you persevere. Okay, so I rolled a 5 on the action dice, and I had 3 for her spirit, and I rolled an 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice. So, wow, that is not good. Her spirit is now 3, going down by 2, and her momentum drops by 1 to be 3 out of 10. Does reading the words cause something unusual to happen? 50-50 chance, I'll say, and I get a no, but. For the past year and a half, I've been playing one of the best AI TTRPG platforms out there, Friends and Fables. Friends and Fables uses the popular 5e mechanics, and I love that I can build and play within any world and any genre. My medieval fantasy world, Isle of Unays, is one of the featured worlds. I created it from a random map generator, and from there I built up the areas, cities, towns, and other points of interest from the ground up. And with Friends and Fables AI-assisted world builder tools getting some love, world building is only getting easier. I've also enjoyed many hours of solo role-playing in my own world with Franz, the AI Game Master. He's thrown my fighter character into competitions, festivals, relationships, court intrigue, not to mention battles on fully AI-generated 2D battle maps built entirely from scene details. I'm now level 5, and while trying to sneak past an invading army of Northmen, my party got stuck in a dilapidated barn fighting off ravening ghouls. I'm not sure we're going to survive the night. If Franz does hand us a TPK, well, at least there are over 1,000 other worlds out there for me to play in. You too can get in on the action at fables.gg. That's Friends and Fables, located at fables.gg. She wept for a time, kneeling on the wet needles, feeling the sorrow and despair and darkness of this foul place. Had that tall figure in the clearing brought her here? If so, why? So that Eilwen might see this? There must be some purpose. Something caught her eye. Beneath her feet, half buried in the snow, at the base of the pillar, she saw an iron panel, about the size of both her palms side by side. There was some sort of protrusion on its face. She brushed away the snow and ice, her hands feeling raw. She warmed them against her body for a time, and then resumed moving the snow aside. Slowly, tentatively, she pressed against the panel. A faint clicking sound greeted her, and a metal lid sprung open. A hissing sound of escaped air shot forth a large white cloud of dust that enveloped her. With a jerk, she fell on her backside, backing away in the snow, coughing and batting at the cloud with one hand, and for an instant she thought she saw a tall, slender figure within the cloud. Then the wind blew the dust to mingle with pine and snow. Is there anything else inside? I'll say there's a 50-50 chance. I get a 6, yes, but. What is it? Asking the Oracle on RPG Solo, I get very feminine. Dang, this has turned dark fantasy. Inside the box, mixed with the white dust, was a little girl's green dress, perfectly preserved. She pulled it out, the confirmation threatening to tear her mind apart. She thrust the dress away as if it were an adder, green against the snow. She brushed her hands furiously on her leggings. Then she screamed to the leaden sky that rained down frozen tears. "Bones ground right?" she half shouted, half gasped, or wept on her knees in sickened horror. She hung her head and breathed deeply. The scent of the pines, the frigid cold air, the smell of wet earth. Then, with resolve, she grimaced and stood up. "No, I will not stand by when such things are done in the dark places of the earth, not whilst I have blade and bow." She stamped towards the pillars, her boots mixing with pine needles and dust-laden snow, and with horrible finality, she slammed her hands on each pillar. She felt their angular bite on her hands, their cold, terrible smoothness, the horrible runes against her fingers. "I vow, mother," she spat, gripping the pillars, "by the iron in these pillars and the iron in my blood, and by my iron resolve, to know the truth behind you and the discs, and why you had them, and if I find remnants of this vile cult left, I will stamp them out. This I do vow." She felt an energy then, cold and hard, thrum into her, sealing her vow. As she stood there, her dark hair hung in front of her face, having come undone from its braid. The hair was a gift from her mother. It was long and luxurious. She loved to brush it, but the small silver brush from the lowlands her mother had given her was now tarnished and worn, the bristles failing. But still it was one of her dearest possessions. Her hair wasn't a tangled mess like her father's or brother's. Father's hair now had some gray in it too. Grandfather had died 2 winters back, and his hair had been wild and tangled too. "Cadfael's hair is tangled like the trees in the deep wild," her mother had said. Mother said father had traveled down to the lowlands once, but it was enough. That's where father had met mother. He claimed he found her by a river in the deep wild, and she had bewitched him with her beauty. Bewitched. Was there something more to that word? She thought of her mother's joyful laugh and warm smile as she danced with father, and thought of her mother reading the discs, of the shadows creeping and gathering above them in the longhouse in dark portent. Which one was her mother? Or were people more complex than black and white stones on a rough wooden game board? She set her jaw and with finality shoved away from the pillars, a terrible resolve on her face. She would not fail. She would find Father and Mabon first, then seek out her mother's history. She had to, for her own peace of mind. She had meant to seek out information about her mother anyway, as understanding the old queen's birthplace was her only real clue to discover anything else about the crown. She had never met her mother's mother. Perhaps grandmother would know something if she could find her, if she were still alive. She moved well away from the ruins and camped on a bed of dry pine needles under a tall, wide pine with strong limbs. She pulled her bear cloak about her and chewed on some dried berries and meat from her pack. The tang from the fruit and the spice on the meat did little to quell the dust that seemed to fill her mouth. She forced herself to swallow, and eventually fell into a troubled sleep. Okay, she's going to do a make camp move. When you rest and recover for several hours in the wild, roll plus supply. On a strong hit, you and your allies may each choose 2. On a weak hit, choose 1. Recuperate, take +1 health for you and any companions. Partake, suffer -1 supply and take +1 health for you and any companions. Relax, take +1 spirit. Focus, take +1 momentum. Prepare, when you break camp, add +1 if you undertake a journey. On a miss, you take no comfort. Pay the price. Okay, so I roll a 5 on the action dice and I get a +1 for supply. That is a 6 against the 2 challenge dice of 9 and 3. That gives us a weak hit, and she will choose to regain +1 spirit. That night, she dreamed that she knelt over a small iron box, snow falling around her, her heart aching from sadness. Then a little girl in a green dress, bearing a warm wind, came laughing and smiling. She touched Eilwen's face, kissed her gently on the forehead, and whispered, "Thank you." Morning found Eilwen fairly well rested, and the strange dream comforted her. She felt a deepened resolve to seek out her mother's history. Okay, can she find her way back to her companions? Since she's seen what the mysterious figure wanted her to see, and she has made her vow, I will say that it is likely. So I got an 8, which is a yes. When she gets back, are Drystan and Aron there? 50-50 chance? Yes, but they're arguing. Around noon, she approached the camp, weary and cold, her face and arms scratched from hiking through pines and branches, but grateful to be back. She heard raised voices and quietly approached.
"Just saying we should go back," Drystan said. "She's gone, lad."
"You're willing to leave after but 1 night of searching?" Aron said. "She's my sister."
"I know she is, lad, but... Bah, you have a craven heart,"
Aron sputtered, folding his arms and turning his back on the larger man.
"Craven," Drystan muttered darkly and shook his large head. "You're daft. It's the green grip. It took her. Surely you can see that. There be nary any tracks in the snow. You've heard the legends. It's haunted, I tell you. It has obviously claimed her."
Eilwen stepped out from behind a tree and entered the camp with a small smile. "Well, if it did," Eilwen said, "it spat me right back out again." They raised weapons and then lowered them, their faces splitting from dumbfounded alarm into grins. "Eilwen!" Aron slipped his axe back into its holder at his waist and jogged over to her and took her by the shoulders. Are you all right?" "I am well enough off," she said, "just tired. It seems I lost my way for a night, but I am back and am grateful to be among companions again." Her smile slipped into a frown. "I saw some things, and I have a dark tale to relate as we travel."
"Good to have you back, lass," Drystan said. "I suppose we can go looking for your father again now?"
She nodded. "Yes, let's leave this place," she said. Soon after, they broke camp and resumed their journey. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so by joining my Patreon at patreon.com/rollponderandplay. There you can also find transcripts, show notes, and other projects I'm involved in. If you would like to reach out to me, you can find me on Patreon or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. Until we meet again, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.